Welcome, everyone. My name is Marvin Jenkins. I'm a coordinator for the Women's Business Center at Maryland Capital Enterprises. And we're a nonprofit organization, and we assist entrepreneurs who are either looking to start a business or expand their existing business. We service the Eastern Shore of Maryland, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, Calvert County, and Harford counties. And we offer all these educational programs like the one you're on today, a lot of different workshops. We offer help with business plans, cash flow projections, and we also have loan assistance uh, here right locally. So uh, any small, pretty much any small business question or concern you have, we'll try to help you or get you in touch with the right people. So we have an office here in Baltimore, and we also have an office in Salisbury. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us today for Sam.Gov Simplified. And I'm going to turn the program over to Rosalind Davis, who is, she's done this for us so many times, and she does such a good job on it. And we really appreciate everything she does for us. And with that, Rosalind, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Marvin, and Happy New Year, everyone. I always like to start off by thanking the Maryland Capital Enterprise Women Business Center. Marvin and Lisa have been so wonderful to our company and given us this platform so that we can provide this training to all of their clients and potential clients as well. So again, I am Rosalind Davis, and today's webinar is the System for Award Management, or SAM.Gov for short. I'm the president and CEO of Rhoda Business Solutions, where we specialize in organizational assessments, workforce development, executive coaching and training, and business administration services and solutions. We also provide customized solutions and training programs that meet specific needs of our clients. We use widely tools such as Project Management Institute to make sure that we plan, execute all our programs more efficiently. We are located here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And as you can see on this slide here, we hold multiple certifications either at the federal, state, and local level. Now, my disclaimer is the screenshots that you see here are actual screenshots from past clients who have allowed me to use their screenshots. The views are the views of mine and not the views of the Maryland Capital Enterprise or any other government entity. So just starting off in the chat, I've actually put a couple of links in there. So if you're not already familiar with how to get to sam.gov, I put that link in the chat. And then a couple of other links that we'll talk about as we go along. So here's our agenda. We're going to go through these things, and there's a couple of important things like required information and documents. So of course, there's the mandatory, and then there's just some that's optional, but we're definitely going to make sure that we cover everything that's required. We're going to go through how to get logged in, and we're going to go through all these different areas within the registration platform of sam.gov. If at any time you have any questions, please raise your hand and Marvin will call on you, or you can just post your question in the chat and I will pause periodically and Marvin will take those questions, and so you do not have to wait to the end of this entire presentation to answer your questions. Just please feel free to stop me if you have a question. Okay. So I've already put the link to sam.gov in the chat. One thing that you will need is your employer identification number, or your EIN. And you actually get that from the irs.gov. It takes probably all of 15 minutes to get an EIN. It is free to get an EIN from irs.gov. So just be wary of people who want to charge you money just to get an EIN from the IRS. So when you go to apply, you have to complete that application in one session because it will time out and you are not able to save your information at irs.gov to apply for the EIN. So you need to complete it all in one session. One fallacy with the system is you cannot use a virtual or a post office box. It has to be a physical address for the EIN. And again, for security purposes, if you do not complete your application within about 15 minutes of no activity, it's going to log you out and then you'll have to start your application all over again. Now, there's also a taxpayer identification number or TIN from the IRS, or sometimes the TIN can be your social security number, depending on what type of company structure you have. And then next that you'll need to have readily available as you get started into your Sam.Gov registration is your state business registration documents. So that's the name that you've created for your company, other information such as your business license, if that's required. But we'll go through it more in detail. And the key thing is on your state registration form, it needs to have your company's legal business name. It also needs to have that physical address again, and you can have a mailing address. So your physical and mailing address, they can be the same or they can be different. But when it comes to physical address, it cannot be virtual or post office box. Now, here's a little bit of a tidbit I like to share with people is you may want to Google your business name. So if you're just now getting started with registering a business in the state of, I'm going to say state of Maryland, because that's where we're at, then you might want to make sure that that domain name is not already taken. So you can do that by Googling it, or you can go to opencorporates.com. To check to make sure that that name that you are wishing to have for your business is not already taken. And another thing I'd like to recommend is I create a folder on my desktop that says SAM registration so that I can drop all the documents that I'm going to require for my registration in there so I'm not searching all over my computer to find that information. You're also going to need your business bank routing and account numbers as well. And then you're going to need your offerings. So the offerings is the goods and services that you plan to sell to the federal government. So when we speak of goods and services, they are classified by the North American Industry Classification Code, or NAICS code for short, and or your product service codes, PSCs. And I've dropped links to both of those in the chat so that you can find out what your NAICS and product service codes offerings are. And then point of contact. At a minimum, you will need the full name, the address, and phone number of your primary point of contact. Now, only officers and employees and board members can be entity administrators in Sam.Gov. No longer can you have a third party as an administrator for your registration. Okay, moving on to logging on to Sam.Gov. Again, I put the link to Sam.Gov in the chat. You want to make sure that you read and accept the terms so that you can advance to the next login screen. And I just want to remind everyone, I am using Internet Explorer. So if you're using Google Chrome or another browser, your screenshots may look different. So if this is the first time that you have ever used login.gov, you're going to have to create an account. So you're going to enter the address and then follow the prompts to complete a login.gov account. But if you already have a login.gov account, perhaps you're using it for another website that uses that particular application, it is the same email address and password across the login.gov application. If you already have an account, it is a two-step verification process. Just keep that in mind. So you need to make sure that you have access to either the method. So if your two-step is email verification or text or phone call, just make sure that you have that readily available because it will time out after about 10 minutes. And then you'll need to get another verification code so that you can proceed in the application. And then once you get that code, you're going to enter it here on the screen. Okay, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of this webinar, and this is getting started in registering your entity in Sam.Gov. So the first thing you're going to do, like you see here on the screen, is click that green button that says Get Started. Now, you will see this screen as a new registrant if you are a new registrant and or if you are renewing and updating your SAM registration. For the purpose of this training webinar, we're going to focus on new registrants only. So the first thing it's going to ask you is, what is your goal? They're asking, what is your goal for wanting to register your entity in the federal government's platform? And so you would say you want to do business directly with the U.S. federal government. The next part, it says, select the answer that best fits your information, that best fits your intention today. And so you basically want to say that you want to bid on federal procurement opportunities as a prime contractor. If you select, you just want to browse or you just want to participate in any type of government, then you cannot submit offers to the federal government as a prime contractor. So the best option is the first option, bid on federal procurement opportunity as a prime contractor. So who required your entity to be in Sam.Gov? This is just another one of their questions. So the easy answer is you decided on your own. If you select any other option, it's going to give you another window, pop-up window, where you're going to have to enter that information. For instance, if you say it was a local government office, you check that box, you're going to have to enter that office that recommended you. So the easy button is to say you decided on your own. Now, if you are a business, you want to click no because you are not registering a government entity. So you would click no on this screen, and then it's going to say my entity is physically located in the US. You want to make sure that that button is checked, and then click next to proceed with your registration. Now, because again, this is a new registration, it's going to ask you, do you already have a cage code? A cage code is the signed by the Defense Logistics Agency, but it's only assigned after your registration is complete and approved in SAM. So as a new registrant, you would say no, that you do not already have a cage code. Now, if your sole purpose is to apply for grants and loan, then you want to register for financial assistance awards only, because you'll have these two options, financial assistance or all awards. If your intent is to be a subcontractor or a sub-awardee, then you only want to apply for a unique entity ID or a UEI. Now, keep in mind, as a subcontractor only, you cannot submit offers to the federal government as a prime contractor. So again, if your intent is just to be a subcontractor, then no business entity registration is required. You would just need to get a UEI, which validates that you have a legal business name and address. But for the purpose of this presentation, we're going to focus on how to register a US-based business in SAM for all awards. So that means you can either be a prime, you can be a sub, but you just don't limit yourself as to what type of awards you're applying for, because the all awards also includes grants and loans. So now of note, I want to make sure that everyone understand that the System for Award Management, or SAM, is for federal awards only. This is not for state awards. This is just federal awards. But if you're interested in just doing business at the state and local level, then you would register with that government's platform.
Got one question,
All right, go ahead.
Allison. It says, can you register two businesses under one account?
No, because what happened is each business will have its own unique entity ID, which is a UEI, and each business will have its own cage code. And that cage code and UEI is what delineates one business from the next. Does that answer that question?
Get my staff.
Okay. So moving along, the next screen that you'll see is entity registration. It says you will be registering the following. And you, again, you selected all awards. So it's just doing a verification, double check that says you're registering a business for all awards. You would just click next and advance to the next screen. Now you have an option to whether or not you want to have your business in public search. So you would check that box if that's applicable. If not, you would just continue with your registration. Okay, this screen here is sort of a visual representation that kind of tells you about the additional sections that you must be completed to register your business entity. So it kind of gives you a broad overview of what type of information is going to be required. Again, this is where I recommended that you kind of have those documents in a folder, maybe perhaps on your desktop, so that you can have quick access to them. We're going to go through each one of these sections in more detail. So business information. This screen is you're about to get ready to validate your business entity. So as indicated, you cannot use a post office box or virtual address for your physical location. This is also where you're going to acknowledge that you can provide official documentation to validate your business. And we're going to go through some of those examples of what official documentation is acceptable in Sam.Gov for registering your business. So for business information, as you can see, it's going to ask for entity name, address, the dates, and the corporation details. And then after each major section, it's always going to give you that option to review the information that you've entered so that you can make any changes that may be needed. So business information, because my information is already pre-populated, it's going to show my business name, and here's my URL to the business. But as you can see, it's optional. So you do not have to put your web address if you don't have one at this time. And then these other two sections are optional as well. Once you verify that that is your legal business name, you would click save and continue. Now, on the entity address, because my physical and mailing address are the same, I can check this box that says same as the physical address, and then complete the rest of the information. So again, my physical and mailing address are the same. If they're not the same for you, just complete the addresses as appropriate. Entity dates and incorporation. So this is the date that I had started my registration in Sam.Gov. The fiscal year end date. Now, this is the fiscal year end date for my business. Most federal government contractors fall on the end of December. So don't confuse this with the government's fiscal year, which ends on September 30th. Um, so just as a suggestion, most businesses decide December 31st is their final day of their fiscal year end.
Couple more questions.
Okay, I'll pause. Go ahead.
The first one is what is the Maryland State Awards platform?
It's Emma, Maryland Marketplace Advantage.
And the second question is what is the value of having our business available for public search?
Uh, so there's advantages and disadvantage. So the advantage is so that other businesses who could be looking for the services that you offer, that they can find you. A disadvantage is so will also the people who are looking to sell you their products and services can also find you. So you may get a lot of spam and junk mail and or phone calls as well. Okay.
All right.
So continuing with business information review, again, after each major section, and like business information is a major section, it's going to give you the opportunity to review all the information that you entered. So then if you have any changes, you can change it. If not, you just click save and continue. Taxpayer information is the next major section. And one thing about Sam.Gov is you have to go in sequence. You can't skip around and say, well, I have all my business information and I have my types and I have this and that. You have to go in order, unfortunately. So taxpayer information. I always recommend that you read the instructions. If you're definitely unsure about what it is you're providing information to, is read the instructions and it'll kind of give you an overview as to what that section is looking for from your business registration. So this says the IRS verifies your entity's taxpayer information. Verification typically takes up to about 2 business days. So what it's doing is when you got that EIN, or you're going to make sure that it matches what you have submitted to the IRS. And that's what it's doing in the background is that IRS validation. So your taxpayer identification number. So again, you can either use your EIN or you can use your social security number. So when it talks about a TIN, it's really referring to your social security number because only sole proprietors or limited liability corporations can use a social security number. So depending on your business structure, you would either enter either the EIN or the social security number. So just kind of keep that in mind because if you enter one, it may not accept your registration, and just know that based on your structure, which one you have to enter. Taxpayer name and address. Again, my name here is the taxpayer, and then here's all my address information. So make sure that this matches again when you register for your EIN or your taxpayer identification number in irs.gov. And this is that IRS verification, and they're verifying that all your information is correct. You're going to get a one-time passcode that's sent to your email address that you use to register on Sam.gov account, and you have to enter that one-time passcode so that you can proceed in this application. Now, once it does that verification, you cannot edit the information until the IRS completes the verification. So, so once you do the get the one-time passcode and do the verification, until you get that back from the IRS that says that Sam.gov and IRS has validated that your EIN and or social security number is correct, you will not be able to continue with your application. But this takes fairly quickly. It doesn't take long at all to get that. Now, business types is the next major heading category, I'll just say. So again, I always say read the instructions if you're unclear about what it's asking. It also tells you here's the information that you must provide in this box here for this particular major section. Now, this screen is you're getting ready to validate your business entity. Again, you cannot use the post office or virtual address for your physical location. And I keep harping on that because they do check if you are trying to use a post office box or virtual address. That is one of the red flags that will get your registration kickback. So that's why I keep harping on no post office box or virtual address. So here, just a couple of things you see on the screen is your business category. So you select your appropriate business structure, your profit structure, institution type, if it's applicable. If not, it's optional. You also want to type or check your organization factors. So if any of these apply to you, but again, it's optional. If you're a manufacturer of goods, yes or no, but it's an optional question. So this should be pretty straightforward based on the type of organization structure you have. And then socioeconomic types. These are options that you can check. Again, it's all optional, and this is optional as well. However, I want to caution you that, for instance, if you check that you are a veteran-owned business, it's going to do a verification with the Small Business Administration to make sure that you are, in fact, a veteran-owned business, because that's another certification through the federal government in order to be able to check that box to say that you are that type of social, you fit that social economic category. And here's that review again, where now it's going to ask you to go through and review all the information that you have entered. And if everything looks good, you just click save and continue. Entity relationships is the next big category. Those instructions are there again. Here's the information that you must provide. So it's asking for immediate owner. It says, does another entity own or control your entity that you're registering? So check the applicable box, either yes or no. And then predecessor, are you a successor to a predecessor that's held a federal contract within the last 3 years? So again, yes or no. And then this is where you're going to get into the meat of starting your registration. Financial information. Here's the type of information that it's looking for. Again, it's looking for your bank account routing numbers, bank information, and then the full name of 5 people in your organization who earned the most compensation. So this would be, for instance, your top 5 executive officers, if that's applied to you. If not, that's something that's you can bypass. You also have the option to say if you want to accept credit cards. So you check yes or no. And then enter your financial information. Executive compensation. So it's asking if they receive 25 million or more in annual gross revenues from the U.S. federal government, your entity. So you would either click yes or no, and then you would continue. The next major category is goods and services. So here again, I put the NAICS codes and product service codes links in the chat box so that if you do not know what service and offerings that you want to sell to the federal government, you can look that up as well. There's also a search feature within Sam.Gov where you can look it up within the system. So NAICS code is the first area that you would select. So you would go through and find the NAICS codes that apply to your business. And then you would just check the box, and then it will add it to your registration. And you can select more than one. You could select all that apply to you, but it will also ask you if you have, for instance, 3 NAICS codes, which one of those 3 is your primary NAICS code? And then your product service code. Again, the link is in the chat, or you can use their search feature within Sam.Gov to find your PSC codes. Now, adding a PSC code, like it says, is optional, but the federal government, sometimes they'll use one and or both when they're asking for products and or services to purchase from the public. So I highly recommend that you use both NAICS codes and product service codes in your registration, so that if they're looking for something particular and they are only using a product service code, they can find that in your registration. Now, business size is asking for the number of employees that you have. It's also asking for your annual receipts. So annual receipts for the federal government, if this is a new registration and you have yet to win any revenue with the federal government, then just put $1. But you can't leave it blank, and you can't put 0. So you can just put $1 if you have not earned any revenue yet with the federal government. So Marvin, before I move to the next section, business operations, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions.
None since the last time, no.
All right. Business operations. Again, it gives you those instructions. It tells you what information that you're going to provide in this particular area. So we're going to move right into that details. So security levels. It is asking for, of your employees, what is the highest security level for your employees? Now, this is an optional question. So if it doesn't apply, you could put NA. But if it do apply, you select the appropriate clearance for the employees. Now, this next says, as for your facility security clearance, the difference is one is for personnel, the other one is for the business. So the facility clearance is for the business. This is an optional question. So you can either say not applicable, or you can say whichever one of these classifications apply to your business. Electronic data interchange. It's most companies just say no on this, because this is something, if that particular contract or government agency needs to have this information, they would coordinate with you after contract award to get this EDI information. Disaster response registry. So you have the option to say, do you want to be included in the disaster response registry? So for instance, if there's a national fire or other national disaster that your company wants to participate in, you would click yes. And then does your entity require bonding to bid on contracts? So bonding, it typically applies to perhaps construction companies, where they typically need bonds to bid on contracts. But you should know your org structure and if you require bonding or not. And geographic area served. So for that disaster registry, where if FEMA was to need assistance, where can you provide assistance? So here are your choices. And then you would select the areas uh, that you want to provide that service and or goods to. So this is just a dashboard review. Again, another visual. So as you complete each section, as you can see, it turns green, and then you get into more registration details. So again, here's the information that you're going to provide and more registration details. They're going to look at legal proceedings, your representations and certs or reps and certs. They're going to look at defense response and then financial assistance response and then your points of contacts. All this is kind of considered core data. Now, what you're going to see is SAM is kind of undergoing some updating within its application. So the first half was what the new screenshots look like. Now we're going to move into what some of the old screens look like. So when you go through to do your registration, some of your screens may or may not look like what I'm showing you here because they are doing updates on a quarterly basis. And so some of the screenshots is changing. What's not changing is the information that they're requiring at this time. So core data, again, this is financial information, executive compensation questions. This is the type of information that it's looking for core data. Excuse me. So the page description is similar to the instructions that you saw on the previous screens. These are the old screenshots, or I say old, but as they're updating the platform, these are the old platform screenshots, but they're still applicable today. So the page description kind of tells you what kind of information that they're looking for this particular section. And then it asks the first question, is your business or organization represented? Do you already have a UEI, basically? And because this is a new registration, you would say no. And then answer the rest of the questions as applicable. And once you get through that particular question or section, again, you get a chance to review your information that you have entered. Assertions. So assertions, again, this is looking at your goods and or services. It's a little quirky right now because they have these two screenshots of within the application. So you may have the assertions where it also asks you again for your goods and services, and it looks like this versus what was shown earlier in this webinar. Just keep in mind that they are going through updates, and so there may be some duplication in the questions that they ask. Representations and certs or reps and certs. Here again is the page description of what that is. It wants to know who is the person within your company is responsible for determining prices offered in bids and proposal. So if that's you, you would enter your information here. If you have signed that to someone else, then you would add that person. If it's yourself and someone else, then just add that person to the registration. And then it asks, do I have any other plants or facilities at different addresses routinely used to perform on contracts? For instance, if you have multiple locations because you have employees working out of different offices, this is where you would enter that information. If not, it's just a no, and you would just click to continue. Now, what it will do is for a response, it'll just ask you a lot of federal acquisition regulation is what the FAR stands for. It's just, it'll ask you a bunch of questions for response 1, 2, and 3, 4. You would answer applicably. But what I want to focus on is the architect and engineer response. So the NAICS code for A and E is 541330, which is engineering services. So if you offer engineering services, you would complete this page. So you can use the drop-down menu to select that the vendor will provide the information with specific offers to the government. I highly recommend that this would be the option that you check if this particular NAICS code applies to your business. That way you can get through your registration and don't have to complete additional information that you may or may not have. But this, to me, should be your default answer that you'll provide it when needed. Now, the next two screens that I'm going to show is the defense response. And this is the FAR, which is again, Federal Acquisition Regulation, and the DFARS, which is Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation, Representations and Certs. So after you get through all the FAR, and now here's the DFARS, you can see because it starts with the D, you have to read all the DFARS. You should read all the FARs, but you definitely have to read all the DFAR ones because they also ask you to check the box that you've read all of them. So on this screen, a financial assistance response, if you recall, if you check the box for all awards, now it asks you, are you wishing to apply for federal financial assistance, either loans and or grants. So you click the appropriate box and then save and continue. Points of contact. So your points of contact. So once you enter the first one, accounts receivable POC, you enter their information. The POCs shall be employees for the actual entity. Group email addresses may be used as long as they are affiliated with the company. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that box there that says mandatory points of contact and what can be entered here in this information. Now, again, third-party companies cannot be administrators for your business. And Marvin, I'd be remiss because I forgot to mention that registering in Sam.Gov is free. It is totally free. You will get multiple people trying to contact you saying your SAM registration is incorrect, or we can do your SAM registration for a fee. But registering in Sam.Gov is a free process. I recommend not paying anyone to do this. It could be time consuming, but you're basically turning over your information to a third party just for them to enter it here in the information on your behalf. So that's my 2 cents. I don't recommend paying someone to do your registration. So if you, once you put in this first accounts receivable POC, you have the option to copy it all to the next one, like sole proprietor POC. I could say copy from, and it gives me this drop down and copy from this particular entity. So you don't have to keep entering that same information if the POC is the same. Marvin, I'm gonna pause right there and see if there's any questions.
Nope, still no questions.
All right. So small business certification. This page, this link from Sam.Gov to SBA, it has probably not worked in a couple of years now. So it says the SBA supplemental page link is currently unavailable, which is still true. So please visit this directly to update your profile. Now, the purpose of this is registering your business if you're a small business, because not only is the federal government, but other prime contractors could be looking to do business with small businesses and have you as a subcontractor. So it is important that you complete that profile as well so that other businesses that could be looking to do business with you can find you if you're a small business. Once you go through and enter all that information, complete all those sections, again, you'll see that checkbox, the green checkbox to show that you have completed each area. You have an opportunity to look at your application in its entirety. So you have to do that before you can get to the submit registration. Now, getting back to the dashboard view that we saw at the beginning, um, this is just a visual of, as you can see, I've completed the business information, the business types, and these are the other ones that are in progress. So if anytime you're trying to figure out where you're at in your application, you can always come back to your dashboard view and see where you're at in completing your application. Again, you have to do that review. You can't skip this step. You have to do the review and before you can submit your registration. And you have to have that one-time password. So there's several times, if you recall, where you have to do this one-time password. I counted about three. Once when you signed on using login.gov, once again when you did your IRS 10 validation, and then here again, in order to submit your registration, you're going to need that one-time password again. So some key takeaways from all of this. Main one, it is free to register at Sam.Gov. You will get several emails and or phone calls of people wanting to register your business for you. You'll also get spam emails that says your entity registration is incomplete and they can help you. But I say make sure that you trust and verify before you give out any information to a third party that has code called and or code email you to get your information and your money for the registration. As you can see through some of the screenshots, there are some mandatory information and then there's some optional information. Again, my recommendation is to have a folder on your desktop where you put in all the information that's going to require it. So your financials, your business registration at your state level, your IRS information that you need as well. You want to complete your SBA small business profile again, because that could be where if the federal government is looking for all small businesses within a certain geographical area or within a certain service offering, they can do a search and find those small businesses. It takes about 3 weeks for an active registration. I just read today where the system is going down on the 17th of January. So during that time, you will not be able to report any new registrations. So keep that in mind should you start your registration for your business. And then once you have an active registration, you have to keep it active every year. You don't have to wait for the year to be up to update your registration at any time. You can add points of contacts. You can add service offerings at any time. If your office changes, please make sure you keep all that information up to date. So you don't have to wait for that annual review to keep your registration active. And it's important to keep it active because if you are awarded a contract and your registration is not active, the government can deny you that award. So that's why it's also important to keep your registration active. All right, I want to say thanks everyone. And again, Happy New Year. Margaret, I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, there's one other question. Is the bidding process online and in person? And if it's in person, what are the locations?
Okay, this webinar is about registering in SAM. So I'm not going to get into where bidding happens because, I don't know if you're talking federal or state, but you'll have to just check as applicable.
That's looks like all the questions so far.
I see one that popped up. Since the system is going down on 17, should we wait
Oh,
till or start? If you can get your registration completed by the 17th, I would say why wait? If not, if you can't get it completed, meaning having all your information in there and you're just waiting for their review and validation, then I would say wait till after the 17th.
anybody have any other questions? You can unmute yourself and ask them. I guess not.
Oh, someone asked, Jennifer asked if I could repost the links. I will do that, Jennifer. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I think I've reposted them once.
Oh, okay.
I copied yours. They in the very beginning they didn't see the link, so I copied them and put them in
Okay.
there. But another thing too, everybody will be getting the recording, the link to the recording, plus anything in the chat. I'll send that along also, and then some other, my contact information and all that. So probably sometime tomorrow you should be getting that. So any information that you missed, you should be getting that tomorrow. So.
All right.
Say, how long will it be to get the recording? I just said that. Okay. Anybody have any other questions? If not, we're going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and end this. And then, like I say, tomorrow you should be getting, any of this information that's, in the chat. I'll include that also when I send out the link. So. With that, thank you, Rosalind.
Hey, Marvin, I got one alibi because there
Uh-oh.
was a question about what was the state's registration link, and I said Emma.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I also want to remind people the Maryland Capital Enterprise also hosts a webinar on how to get certified in Maryland's small business programs. And so we're having that webinar next week, or no, not next week, but
The 27th.
yes, the 27th is part one, and then part two is the following week.
That's correct.
Yes.
And it'd be at the same time, be noon. So, and in the information that I send to everybody, I have the link to where you can go in and register for these webinars also. So, you'll have all kinds of information when I send this out. So,
Yeah.
and I encourage everybody to go to these links because I mean, like I say, there's a lot of different courses out there that we have. This way you can see what we do have and sign up for them. And not only that, but we have a YouTube channel also. And a lot of even some of the older ones that we've done are out there on the YouTube channel. So I include that in the letter too. So a lot of information. All right. Well, thank you,
All
everyone.
right.
And Rosalind, thank you again for doing such a great job. And I guess thank everybody for being here. And Rosalind, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.